Deltarune, 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 Deltarune. I know how Deltarune is going to end. I know what's going to happen in Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 100% for a fact. Guaranteed, I know exactly what's going to be. Let's get into it. So, as we know, in the end of Chapter 5, we end up getting the bunker code, right? The code that opens up the secret bunker where Undyne and Asgore are being held. So, Chapter 6, after introducing Noelle to the Dark World and explaining everything about it, we take her to the bunker to rescue Undyne and Asgore. However, of course, because the night is involved and this bunker has no windows, no other doors, no nothing, it's very dark in there, meaning that there's a dark world in there. So, we head in, we fight a bunch of things, we rescue Undyne and Asgore, and we take them out. But we take them out of the bunker, not kill them. We then realized that as we were in there, the night went around town putting dark worlds in a few places, right? One of which being the school. Now, of course, Toriel and Alphys, being the only two teachers in that school, are doing their lesson plans and meetings and such when a dark fountain opens. So everybody has to rush over there to help, including Asgore and Undyne. While we're in there, we get one of those scenes, you know, in movies, whenever there's like the big tower falling and the kid's just like, that's Alphys. Alphys is going to be standing there. And then Undyne rushes in and saves Alphys. This causes them to finally fall madly in love. Okay? This is important. This is important. We then get a scene with Asgore and Toriel, where he finally is able to tell Toriel, look, everything I said was right about the Dark Worlds and such, right? And so he proves that everything wasn't his fault and that they should get back together. Toriel still rejects him because it wasn't about what happened. It wasn't about why it happened. It was all about his reaction to it. He went on this crazy tangent trying to prove that it wasn't his fault to the point of neglecting his wife and kids. Therefore, Toriel does not get back with Asgore. She's a little better because it wasn't his fault, but still quite angry at him for neglecting his family in times of need. We seal the fountain in the school. Chapter 6 ends with a wedding scene between Undyne and Alphys. The roaring begins, as during all of this, the night has gone around town, making new dark fountains everywhere. The wedding is cut short by the roaring. Chapter 7 opens once again in the cathedral where the wedding is taking place, with the roaring beginning outside. Everybody rushes out into this new dark world. Now remember, the town has no internet, no outside news, no nothing. They are cut off from the rest of the world. That's why all the dark worlds take place in the town and nowhere else. Therefore, the roaring cannot escape to the rest of the world. Nobody else knows. We see all of the characters from the town as their lighteners in the dark world versions. Okay? Very interesting. We battle some monsters. Everyone finds out what's going on. It's not a secret anymore. Okay? Okay. Moving on. Some things are going to happen, right? Toriel eventually tells the tale of the Deltarune. Now, what is a rune? It is a magical symbol that means things. Okay? What do you get with a lot of magic? Light. Okay? Toriel uses the Deltarune to light the way. You can use this to turn darkners into their light world counterparts for a time. Okay? You finally eventually make your way to the knight themselves. You use the Deltarune to light them, showing that it is Des. The knight is Des. Okay? Ah, 1 second. I need a sip of water. My bad. I've been talking for 5.5 minutes. Well, this isn't even my first take, so I've actually been talking for like 20 minutes. Okay, so Des is the knight. It gets confirmed right there as Toriel shines the Deltarune over the knight, revealing the Light World counterpart, which is Des. Okay? You then fight the knight. All of the characters, like your friends and such, fight the knight. During this, something happens. I haven't figured out how this works, but somehow, some way, Chris is going to end up ripping their heart out, right? Their soul. Rip out their soul, throw it to the ground, revealing it to everybody as this is a last ditch effort to help the knight continue the roaring and such, right? You, along with Chris's friends, have to fight Chris and the knight. Okay? When all hope seems lost, when your health is low, Asgore comes screaming into frame, driving his pickup truck. Driving in my car right after a beer. Okay? He hits Des with his truck, finishing the fight. Okay? Des is dead on the ground. Because, just been hit by a truck. But you have to think, Des isn't completely dead. Okay? Where does Des live? In the town. What is the town? It's a fictional setting. What happens when you get hit by a truck in a fictional setting? You get isekai'd. Where does Des get isekai'd? They get isekai'd to chapter 0 before the game begins. Okay? This is when Des becomes the knight, because when you get isekai'd, you get given a new role. Des gets isekai'd into their own world, but in the past with that knight persona. This is how the knight begins. We know this to be true because anime, which of course has been foreshadowed by the fact that Flowery is anime. Flowery is anime. This shows that anime concepts exist in Deltarune, such as isekai. That's how we know that Des is, of course, going to get isekai'd by Asgore in his truck. Moving on. After this battle, you, of course, see that Chris was working with the knight. Everybody sees this. Okay? Very sad, very unfortunate moment as the townspeople now need to reckon with Chris's actions. Being the strongest and the closest to Chris, Asgore has to be the one to take him out. He took out Des, he has to take out his own son. Very sad, I know. But unfortunately, this is just what's gonna happen, okay? Now, keep in mind, the knight is gone, right? Has gone to the past. Des is dead. There's no more knight in the present day. This, of course, ends the roaring, right? That's why they're now able to take care of Chris. Without the knight, there are no dark worlds and such anywhere around. Castletown, gone. Okay? Everything dark world related, gone. The town bubble opens up. Not a literal bubble, but the thing keeping them from having internet access, from getting outside news, gone. Asgore has to execute his own son. It's very sad, but Deltarune is a pretty sad game at times. Okay? As he strikes the final blow, people come pouring in from the outside world, right? Finally, this town just appeared out of nowhere. Jurassic Park style, you know? It was like it wasn't on the map or anything, and then it just was. News reporters, photographers come rolling in right as Asgore murders the only human in their entire town. Okay? This, of course, gets a lot of publicity as the monsters are deemed as evil because they just killed a human. And before they can explain, everybody's xenophobia causes them to immediately become anti monster. This is why they end up getting banished. They like have this whole war about it, but then they get banished to the underground. That sets up for Undertale. Okay? Now, there are a few other things here and there that may seem to disprove this theory. However, they're all wrong, and I can explain why. For starters, I will say one more piece of evidence to why this is true that Deltarune is, in fact, a prequel to Undertale. The ice cream scene in Chapter 5 involves Stan saying, "Hey, you got 3 ice creams. That's enough for a punch card. Go ahead and draw all of your faces on this." So Chris draws Chris's face, Susie's face, and Noelle's face. When you complete the genocide run in Undertale, you can go behind Sans' house and into a little underground bunker lab type thing. In this lab, you find a punch card with 3 people drawn on it, none of which you, the player, recognize, or you, Frisk, recognize. Okay? I need some more water. My bad. It's been like 7 minutes. You should drink water too if you haven't. Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyways, as for the possible evidence against what I say and the rebuttal, for starters, of course, these are all just wrong and bad. I'm correct. Okay, moving on to what this actually is, right? First of all, the idea that the 6 humans in Undertale are flowers in Deltarune. Okay? Nothing is more powerful than a flower's dream. Flowery says this himself. Now, what was the flower's dream? To be human. The flowers will be human. Eventually, with all the monsters, especially Asgore being in the underground, they will wilt away, but they will come back as humans because nothing is more powerful than a flower's dream. And of course, Destiny will eventually reunite each and every one with Asgore. That's how you end up with all of the souls being taken by Asgore in Undertale. By the before Undertale takes place, is because each of those flowers becomes human due to their dream and ends up reuniting with Asgore eventually. As for Azrael, right? The situation with Azrael, he's not showing up until until the very end, right before stuff happens, right after the roaring has ended, because of that bubble. Once again, that bubble is why they have no internet access. It's why they have no outside news, and of course why they wouldn't have outside visitors. Azrael can't get in until the roaring has ended. Of course, wanting to stay with his family, he goes down to the underground as well alongside them. Asgore had two kids, Chris and Azrael. He had to kill his own son, leaving him with just Azrael. This is why, before Undertale but after Deltarune in the underground, when Kara shows up, Asgore's so desperate to have this human child. Okay? Okay? He's desperate to have a human child because he had to take out his own kid. And of course, eventually, things happen to Kara as well. And it's very sad, it's very unfortunate, but that's just what happened in Undertale, and that's the reason why it happened. Okay. Moving on, you may be wondering what's the difference between the regular route and the weird route. There is no difference. Your choices never mattered. When you go with Noelle into the water, right? You skip through the end. You skip through the rest of chapter 5 and chapter 6. Notice how none of the things that I said happen in chapter 6 technically need Chris. Technically, they could all be done without Chris. Okay? Therefore, the weird route does not mess up anything that happens in chapter 6. As for chapter 7, at the end of the day, Noelle fights Chris, right? And unfortunately, again, we end up with some very sad things. As in the normal route, Noelle helped bring her friend to death. In the weird route, she has no autonomy. Chris is the only thing that she can find any sort of anything in. Chris dies. Either way, at the end of that chapter, Noelle commits self-inflicted die. Guaranteed. 100%. That's gonna happen. And it's again sad. But we know that my mouth is so dry. We know that your choices don't matter. This is how your choices end up not mattering. Again, with choices, we have all of the secret bosses. How does that do anything? It somewhat does, but somewhat doesn't. You see, the glass shards that you get whenever you defeat one of those secret bosses, they're glass, right? They're very sharp. So, during that fight against Chris and the Knight, Chris, of course, has this glass, very sharp, raises the attack. However, with each bit of glass, if you peer into it while in the light world, you notice that your hand disappears alongside it. These pieces of glass break apart Chris's existence, leading to a lower defense, meaning that the fight ends up being a little harder if you get hit, a little easier if you don't, depending on how many of these secret bosses you have fought, leading to a slightly different fight, depending on what you've done. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else that I thought of that I have not said here yet. I don't believe there is. I believe that should be everything. I feel like there's one last thing that I'm missing. Oh. I remember. I am so sorry. At the beginning of the theory, I stated that Asgore and Toriel do not get together. right? My bad. I was wrong. I got my ideas mixed up a little bit there. That's my apologies. But like I've been talking for 20 minutes, so I'm not going to take another take. I'm not going to do another take to fix it in the past. I'm going to reconcile with that right now. They do get together, but it's an uneasy marriage. Okay? They get back together, but they're not like perfect. This is why it's so easy for them to break up during Undertale. Like before Undertale, but after Deltarune. That being said, I hope you enjoyed listening to my non crazed ramblings because I'm right, so I'm not crazy. Toby Fox, if you're watching this, which, like, no, you aren't, but if maybe you watch every Deltarune video that shows up ever, I hope you're quaking in your boots. I hope you see this, okay? Because you're gonna be thinking, if Toby Fox sees this, they're gonna think one of two things. Oh my goodness, this guy figured it out, or bro spent 20 minutes talking about nothing, like nothing related to Deltarune at all. But like, no, I didn't. It's the first one. If Toby Fox ever somehow finds out about this, he's gonna be quaking in his boots because I figured it out, buddy. You best be calling me the new MatPat, because I got it all figured out. Anyways, this, of course, is going to be the end of the video. I don't know how to do outros, so I'm gonna press the end video button now. Goodbye.